So you hit your goals. You got the job, you got the house, you got the life that you thought was going to make you happy, but something still feels off. In this video, I'm going to be diving into a recap of Chapter 3 from the book Happier by Tal Ben-Shahar, and I'm going to explore with you the 3 biggest reasons that people chase happiness, but a lot of times don't feel happiness. So we've already covered in the last 2 videos that I made. We covered the hamburger model, we covered why you need to question what makes you happy, and today we're starting to get a little bit more specific into the quadrant of the hamburger model known as happiness. And we're diving into the specifics of what it means to have present benefit and future benefit. The very first thing that I want to dive into is this concept that honestly has stuck in my brain for like the last 12 years since I first heard the knowledge from Happier that my mom taught to me when I was only like 12 years old. And this has stuck with me so deeply in my brain, I cannot forget it. And it's the idea that you must always question what makes you happy. You must always question yourself. Now, the way that Tal Ben-Shahar phrases this question is through the title of the infinitely regressive why question. And so it's kind of in the name what this exercise really is. And it's this idea that a lot of times we go after goals without really considering if it's going to make us happy when we get there. And so instead we put in all this work. We pick up a goal or a desire really easily without ever thinking about, oh, do I actually, want this thing? And then we go after and put in all this work and effort and struggle a lot of times. And then we get there and it's not a great payoff. And so then we have regret, we have resentment, we have not the emotional frequency that we're hoping to feel along the way, and then life starts to beat us down. And so the infinitely regressive why question is to ask yourself, when you have a desire or goal, is to ask yourself why, repetitively and continuously until you arrive at the response, it makes me happy. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So you might have the goal of, say, I want to buy a new house. And this is great goal. It's not to say that you shouldn't have this goal or desire, but you should take it with a grain of salt and start by asking yourself these whys. So ask yourself why once. Why do you want the house? And you might say, well, I want more space. Then you might ask yourself why again. You keep going. Ask yourself why and you say, why do you want more space? Well, I feel very restricted. I feel like my space isn't clean. It doesn't feel modern. I don't feel at peace. Great. Okay, so why do you want to feel at peace? Well, I want to feel at peace because it would make me happy. Well, that's great. That's a great starting point of the whys you could ask yourself. Now, you could go further with this. I always encourage people to get to 7 different levels of why. If you're not getting to 7 different levels of why, there's probably a lot you're brushing past, because there might be also in that questioning of why, you might also have that very same line of questioning. You might go, well, I want more space. Well, why do you want more space? Well, I just really want to feel like I have a better house. That might actually be the response. And it's like, well, why do you want to have a better house? Because I don't feel like my house is very nice and my friends have better houses than me. Okay, well, that's not leading you toward it makes me happy response. You can see how it's really more about distinguishing, if it's coming from a real passionate desire for the thing, or if it's coming really more from a fear of not having a thing, or fear of trying to keep up, or some limitation and trying to keep up in some way in comparison to other people. The root of the why you're asking these whys is to get to the core of what you want. What's the core value you're really chasing after? Is it peace or is it validation from your friends? And you can take this in any way. If you want to switch jobs, even if you want to go on a trip, I like to use the example of, I might be someone who's like, well, if I want to make 6 figures in my business and I start questioning that, I might arrive at some conclusion that, maybe I do want options. Like I might say, oh, why do you want it? Well, I want options. Well, why do you want options? Well, I also want to, I want options so that I feel like I feel like a wealthy person. Well, why do you want to feel like a wealthy person? Because I want to feel significant. Well, why do you want to feel significant? Because I don't feel worthy. That might be that's a hard-hitting line of questioning that I can only answer because I have so much self-awareness, right? But the point is that you're supposed to take this questioning and recognize if it's really coming from a positive space or if it's coming from an inadequacy place, if it's coming from trying to keep up. Now, the second key takeaway from this chapter 3 of Happier that really emphasizes the happiness quadrant. It's this aspect of the happiness quadrant that you could look at another way. Because in that quarter of the happiness quadrant of the hamburger model, which is all about having present benefit, present joy, and future benefit, future joy. Another way to look at this is that you really need to know right now that you need both pleasure and meaning in life in order to actually be happy. Without one or the other, you essentially fall into the rat race mentality or you fall into the hedonist mentality, because pleasure is all about the immediate emotional experience. You have energy in motion. When you have positive experiences in your life, you have a positive response in your heart space, in your gut space, in your sacral space, and even in your throat space and crown space. All of this energy in motion in your body is having a response, and that is what we call emotion. Emotion is important. You want to think and feel good in your life, and so it is important to have pleasure. However, pleasure, it can come in the form of fun, it can come in the form of rest, it can come in the form of creativity. But simultaneously, you also have to have purpose. You have to have some sense of purpose, contribution, impact on the world. And I can tell you firsthand, as someone who is probably a little bit too obsessed with constantly chasing after some level of purpose in my life, from positive psychology, it's not crazy for me to want some sense of purpose in my life. I used to always think like, oh, it's crazy, or like, I'm not supposed to want purpose. I should just be happy with, security. I should be happy with if I have pleasure in my life and I have financial security, I should be happy, but I cannot let go of that sensation that I need to have some impact on the world. And this is true based on positive psychology. This is why a lot of people who are, even if you're in a job that gives you a lot of security and your life is pretty good, you don't feel a sense of impact on the world, and that could be what's causing you to not feel happy. And so part of this is something that you should consider when you're thinking about when you create a desire or you create a goal. Consider if that desire or goal is in alignment with creating pleasure or purpose. And if you can answer it either way, but it really needs to fall into one or the other. Now, the last and possibly my favorite part of chapter 3 is where we get into the most practical exercise you should be doing today. You should be asking yourself the infinitely regressive why question, but that should be something that is just a practice where anytime you're moving through your day, you're driving to work and you're thinking about, oh, I want to take this trip, or maybe I should buy a new car. Maybe you can start to develop the habit of questioning your desire. Now, this is the practice that you should be doing on paper today, okay? And this is called the Lasagna Principle. I love how Tal Ben-Shahar has now 2 principles that are based around food, but I guess they're easy to remember. The Lasagna Principle is very personal to him because it's developed, he came up with the name because of the fact that he used to love that his mom made lasagna, but just because it was like the best lasagna in the world, and he absolutely loved his mom's lasagna, he didn't want that lasagna every single day. It's the idea that just because something is good, and just because we love something, doesn't mean more is always better. Sometimes we can have less of it. Sometimes there's this sweet spot of we need more of it, but we don't need all of it. And if we don't have any of it, that's kind of sad too. So to practice the Lasagna Principle in your life, what you're going to do is analyze and lay out all of the activities you do in a day. And maybe you have to track your day first to figure out what are all the things that you're doing in your day. And now you're going to rank things in 2 columns. You've got the pleasure scale and the meaning scale. And you're going to rank them on a scale of 1 to 5. And you obviously 1 being a low amount of pleasure, a low amount of meaning, and 5 being a high amount of pleasure and a high amount of meaning. And you can have things that are both. You can have things that feel pleasurable and meaningful. You might have things that are just pleasurable, and you might have things that are just meaningful. And there might be things that are neither pleasurable or meaningful. And it's really important to notice how many activities in your day you are doing that are neither pleasurable or meaningful. Now, remember that, things like relationships can fall into the meaningful category because they are meaningful to us. They are, and maybe your relationship, like for example, maybe being a parent is more meaningful to you and not the most pleasurable. And maybe your relationship with your significant other is more pleasurable and more meaningful. That's just a stereotype. It could be the other way around for you. Whatever it is, you have to really consider like these things that are normal and like, oh, that's just my relationship. Oh, that's just my job. Well, what are you doing in your job? What activity in your job are you doing? And is it pleasurable or meaningful? Then, from there, you're going to write a plus or a minus next to each activity. You're going to say, I want more of this in my life. I want less of this in my life. You might write down activities on your list that you don't do every day, but you need to do more of in general. Maybe you do it once a week or once a month or once a year. Write down that activity, rank it, and then put a plus sign next to it. Put 3 plus signs next to it, because if you have these things that you know will make you happy and you're not doing them, you're laying it out perfectly as a roadmap for yourself to why you're not happy. You've perfectly laid it out. It's quite simple, actually. You know what makes you happy and feel, you know what gives you a sense of meaning, and you also realize maybe that you don't do it that often. Can you make time? Can you take some things off your plate to make more time for that? These things might sound like, oh, but I can't. I have to do these responsibilities. This is why I love the book Happier, because he really gets down into the root of the fact that, hey, if you don't want to be happy, happiness is actually quite simple. But your justifications and excuses are getting in the way from very, very, very simple principles. So apply the Lasagna Principle, apply more sense of meaning and pleasure into your life, and don't forget to ask yourself why at least 7 times anytime you create a new desire before you start putting in all the work and possibly struggle into the work to get to that desire. Find out if it makes you happy first. Now, here on this YouTube channel, if you want to learn more about building happiness, creating your most fulfilling life, living your best life ever right now, we have our Happier course right now publicly available on our YouTube channel. This course is normally part of our self-mastery quest inside our app called Be the Hero Academy. This self-mastery quest is the ultimate resource for you to step into your best life, for you to understand yourself, understand your loved ones, navigate your relationship with your childhood wounds and heal them so that you can step into the person you've always wanted to be. That's all inside our self-mastery quest. But for right now, for limited time, we have decided to take this Happier course and make it free and public all on our YouTube channel because we know it's so impactful. The book is available for you. You can go buy the book and read the book, but we took the book and applied it into the Cliff Notes, into the tangible practices so that you can understand it faster. You can go do the entire course probably in one sitting, and it's free right now on our YouTube channel. So I highly recommend you go check that out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We've been making videos for years, but we just branched off from my sister's YouTube channel as she has more of an emphasis on astrology these days. So we just started this channel, even though we've been making videos for years, and we would love to build up this channel, build up this community, and help these videos be seen by more people. So be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment if you loved this, share it with someone who you think would like our channel, and be sure to stay tuned for our next video where I'm going to dive into Happier Chapter 4. Thanks!